Good evening, everybody. My name is Alan Friedman, and I'm the Ride Director for Escape New York 2020. Thanks for joining us tonight in the second of our 3 webinars in June, introducing you to some of the benefits that NYCC offers its members. Tonight, our focus is on our NYCC Ride Library. With me tonight are Carl Waaser, Hank Schiffman, and Bob Schmon, who together manage the library for us. Also with us tonight is Peter Story, Club President. We will be around after the presentation to field any questions you have about the riding that's available in the club at this time during the pandemic. With that, I do want to remind you that we're going to hold all questions to the end, but there is a Q&A. So when you have a question, register it, I'll note it, and then when we get to the end and there's time for questions, I'll relay it to our panelists, and they'll probably be monitoring as we go along as well. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Carol to begin the presentation of the Ride Library. Carol, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Alan. I'll start by giving you an overview of what's in our Ride Library and how it's organized. So I'm going to go to screen share and hope this works. Yes, we are now, whoops, I forgot to go back to the NYCC homepage. Sorry. This is the homepage of the NYCC website. To access the Ride Library, hover your cursor over Rides and then click on Ride Library. This will take you to the Ride Library homepage. On the left, you'll see, first of all, a link to what amounts to a little bit of a history of how we developed the Ride Library and got to where we are now. Then under that, a little bit about cue sheets. This link, additional information, is actually a link to a description of our difficulty rating system, which I will be talking about later in my presentation. But I want to point out this is the link, and it's the only place you'll find this link on the home page for the Ride Library. Underneath that, you'll see a link to a Google map that shows you our regions. We've organized the Ride Library in regions, most of which are geographic. You can see this list on the right. And above it is a map, but this map is not interactive. Over here, this link takes you to a Google map that is interactive. So you can move it around, you can zoom in, you can click on a particular region and see the name of that region. So that will help you figure out where you want to go. In terms of the regions, as I said, most of them are geographic, but not all of them. We have regions for each of the SIG cue sheets, although we don't yet have the DSIG, and we'll get to that. And I have to say that a lot of the SIG cue sheets are out of date, and we had intended to make a project this year of updating all the SIG cue sheets, but that was rather foiled by COVID, so next year. We have a region for multi-day tours in case some of you are interested in getting a little touring bag on your bike and heading out to the hills for a couple of days. We have mountain biking, gravel grinding, urban adventures. We also have this little getting out of New York City region, which just shows you routes to get from typical starting places in Manhattan out over the various bridges to get out of Manhattan. And we probably need to add to this where all the ferry landings are, since rides now are starting to use the ferry system quite a bit. But we'll get to that. So let's pick a region. I'm going to pick New Jersey, Rockland County, because it's a fairly familiar region to most of you. And if I click on that, you'll see you still have the list of regions on the right. And underneath that, you have something called View Rides by Interest. We'll get to that. There's a map of the region at the top on the left, and it also is interactive. So you can expand it and say, oh, that's where Old Japan is. I was wondering about that. Anyway, underneath the map, you'll see a list of rides in that region. And you can see this is a very popular region. We have many pages, 11 pages of rides in this region. We're gonna pick one ride. I'm gonna choose Baylor's Massacre Site, because I happen to know it. And we'll talk about the route entry in the ride library. The first thing you see on the left here is waypoints. This will tell you roughly how the route goes, where it goes. In most of our suburban regions, the waypoints are going to be roads, names of roads that the route takes. Not all the roads, but the primary roads that take you where you're going. In our New York City region and urban adventures, oftentimes the waypoints will be more like communities that you go through, like Ridgewood, Queens, or someplace in Brooklyn. And you also might have names of parks that you go through. A lot of our NYC rides go through parks and use bike paths that have names, and you'll see those in the waypoints. Under waypoints, you have the link to the Ride with GPS route. So you click on that, and it will take you, my slow computer, to the Ride with GPS link. Even if you don't have a membership in Ride with GPS, you will see this and you will be able to download it. Bob is going to talk a lot more later about various features of Ride with GPS and the benefits you can get, but just know that you can get there. I'm going to go back to the route. And under that, you have interest tags. This particular ride is historical. And there are many historical rides in Bergen County, but if I click on historical, you will see all the rides that have an interest tag of history, historical, no matter what region they're in. And you can see there are quite a few of them. And you can click on any of these interest tags on the right, and you will get all the rides in any region that have that interest tag. So then down below we have details, the author, this is why I'm familiar with this ride, the name of the region, levels. We try to label our rides as to appropriateness for C, B, or A riders. So this particular ride is labeled B or C. And it doesn't mean that A riders can't do it. It just means that it's going to be very easy for A riders, and there may not be a lot of opportunity for rotating pace lines. Below that, you have the distance in miles and the vertical gain in feet. And below that, a difficulty number. To get that number, we add the distance rounded up, 49, plus the vertical gain divided by 100. So 49 plus 20 gives us 69. And that we calculate to be a difficulty rating of 2 out of 5. You'll remember that when we were on the Ride Library homepage, I showed you the link to a description of the difficulty ratings. I'll just say here that rating of 1 would be an easy C ride. A rating of 2 would be an easy B ride or a good C ride. A rating of 3 might be a more challenging C ride and a good B ride, and maybe a relaxing A ride. A rating of 4 is probably not even suitable for C rides, but it would be a challenging B ride or a good A ride. And a rating of 5, knock yourselves out, A riders. It's going to be a good A ride and a challenging, could be a challenging A ride, and maybe some faster B riders would want to stretch and try to do a 5 rating, but just be careful if you do. But there's a better idea of exactly what those ratings mean if you go to that link on the Ride homepage. Underneath that, we have our cue sheet, which is the typical NYCC cue sheet. And a big thanks to our member, Mike Kachurik, who developed the little app called RoboViva that allows us to quickly generate this cue sheet from a Ride with GPS route. And you'll see that the cue sheet has the name of the ride, the mileage, the vertical feet. And then on the cues, you'll notice that right turns are always shaded, left turns are not shaded, and if you go straight, that's also not shaded. Here's a straight down here. The yellow, most of the time, will indicate a pit stop or a food stop. It's always labeled pit, even if it's a food stop. There's one other reason for a yellow highlighted line, and that is for a caution. And over here where this says pit, it would have a triangle with an exclamation point in it, which means read this very carefully because it could be very dangerous. So let's go back to our route, and the last thing we have is the description of the ride. This will usually be either by the author or by one of us, and it tells you a little bit about the ride, maybe tells you where the food stops are, where the bathrooms are, what's interesting about it. But it might also tell you about dangerous or tricky sections in the ride. So we encourage you always read this description, because there might be things in there that'll say, there's a tricky descent at the end of such and such a hill, so be very careful. That might also be on the cue sheet. So even if you're going to use a Garmin device or a Wahoo or some other way to get your GPS route, you should always read the cue sheet, even if you're not actually going to use it on the ride, just to make sure you know what the author has said in there about some of those sections. And then I think that's it. Yes, so that's all there is to the routes. And I'm going to turn this over now to Hank Schiffman, who's going to talk to you about how to search and find your perfect route. Hank, it's all yours.
Oh, thank you, Carol. That was well done. So I'm going to be talking about the search function of the Ride Library. But before I do it, I just wanted to share with you what our cycling club's all about, and it's about the rides. And this is a video, a short clip on GoPro, test mounted. I took it 2 days ago. Three of us took New Jersey Transit to Sloatsburg, and then we cycled to Poughkeepsie, Peekskill. And as you can see, we're going over the Bear Mountain Bridge. And in the distance, right there, showing up, that's Anthony's Nose. That's the bookend on the eastern side of the bridge. It's 900 feet. Bear Mountain's about a little over 1,300 feet. 1 week before this, the three of us on these same bikes took a ride over the top of that, just above Gabe's head on the crest. Unbelievable views. We cycled on carriage trails, and that ride is actually in the Ride Library. Probably not for many people. It's a mountain bike ride, but I think that even if you don't ride up there, you should at least hike to the top of it for the views. One of the best views around. So we're going to go back to why we're here, and this is the search function, which is rarely used, and it kind of obscure, but here it is. You go to the Ride Library page, and at the bottom of it is this.
Hank, we're not seeing it.
You're not seeing it. Oh, here. It says I'm sharing screen.
Yes, but we're still seeing your video.
Let's see. I'm going to new share. Oh,
Close your video at that point. If you just close the video.
yeah, here we go. Okay.
How
about
there
that?
you go. You're
Wow.
good.
Okay, so here we are on this is the homepage of the Ride Library. And we go to the bottom of it. It says to search routes by regions, etc. You click on that. Come on. There we go. There's the search function. The filters are for different factors. One is, as Carol mentioned, the regions, which aren't always physical regions. Some of them are types of riding, as in gravel, mountain, and our new region is urban adventure, which we encourage everyone to check out. So Then the next functions are mileage, between certain miles, ride difficulty, and ride level. So of the two ideas of which you may be using this search function would be is you did a ride, a group ride with the club, but you can't remember the name of the ride. You'd like to do it again, but you remember some feature of it. So it may be a waypoint. So I'm going to say, I remember I went up Perkins, and here's Perkins. Click Perkins. That's actually, Perkins is the road that goes from Seven Lakes Drive to the top of Bear Mountain. And here are the rides that have waypoints of Perkins in it. And you go, oh, I remember, it was a mid-session climb fest. When I click on it, you could see the route, the page, and here's where in the waypoints, that's where Perkins shows up. See, Perkins Bear Mountain. But going back to the other function for it is you decide that you want to take something that's adventurous, you want to find a route, and you've looked around and you still don't exactly know what you want to do. So you say to yourself, I want to go to the Hudson Highlands, and I want to do a ride somewhere between 75 and 100 miles. And I'm going to hit search. And all the rides in the ride library that come up with that are here. You can click on any of those rides, and there they are. Just one other factor here is that, just to let you know how lucky we are in the ride library in New York Cycle Club, is that the closest metropolitan area to the Appalachian Trail is New York City. And the lowest point of the Appalachian Trail is the zoo at Bear Mountain, which is only slightly lower than the Bear Mountain Bridge where you saw me cycling above. And with that, I hand it over to Bob Schmon. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Hank. And may I thank Hank and Carol. As the newest librarian, I now have a particular appreciation of the enormous effort and work you both have put in these many years to make the library the extraordinary resource it is. I was happy and honored when you asked me to join you as a librarian this spring as we jointly set up the Ride with GPS Club account. And it is about that account that I will now speak. But first, for those of you who may be new to the Ride with GPS platform, let me give a brief introduction. First, let's go to their website here. If you are a first-time user, I recommend you register to open a free Ride with GPS personal account, as you will need one to join our club account. Once you have done so, this is what your home page or dashboard will look like for your personal account. There are also two paid tiers called Basic and Premium. And if you wish to see what each offers, just go up to the upgrade button here, and you can see the headlines. As a member of the NYCC, you will be given a 20% discount on these paid tiers should you wish to upgrade. And that process is described in the Ride with GPS Club account page on the NYCC website. However, one of the benefits of joining our Ride with GPS Club account is that you get several of these useful features of the premium account for free, as the NYCC kindly pays the annual dues of our club account. I won't say more about our personal account page here, as most of you will be familiar with it, and those who aren't can have fun exploring it and learning about things like the route planner and the search function, where you can search for routes both locally and around the world. I will now show you how to join the NYCC Ride with GPS Club account. First, let's navigate back to the page that Carol had open, our club ride library page, and then hover your cursor over rides and scroll down to a club Ride with GPS account. If you are an active member of the NYCC, you will see all of the information you need right over here on the right-hand column to join the Ride with GPS Club account. If you are not signed in or an active member, you will not see this column. You will see everything to the left of it, but not this column. So to be clear, only active members of the NYCC can join the Ride with GPS Club account. Then click this auto approve link here in the upper right and follow the prompts briefly. If you're not signed into your personal Ride with GPS account, you'll be prompted to do so. Then you will be asked to provide your name and email address, and that's it. You'll be a club account member and directed to the club account page. Since I've already signed in, when I click this, I get the continue to club button, and here I am on our club account page, and don't you love the picture? Now, to log on to this account page on an ongoing basis, there are two ways to do it. First is to create a bookmark on your browser and or a shortcut for the page on your desktop, or you can always access the club account page through your personal homepage. And let me toggle back and forth to show you how it's done. If you're on the club account page, just go up to this orange cyclist icon in the upper left and click it, and you will be on your personal account page. And then to get back to the club account page, just scroll down. You'll see a bunch of buttons here on the left, and you'll see an NYCC icon. Click on it, and then you will be back to our club account page. Note, on the club account page, active members of the NYCC will have full access to signature features and benefits that I will now cover, but cannot make any changes to the club account, such as adding a new route or editing an existing route. The only individuals who can do that are the club librarians, Carol, Hank, and me. So as always, if you discover new routes, we encourage you to share them by sending the routes to us, and we will take it from there. Okay, now for the NYCC Club account. There are several reasons you may want to join, and the benefits are listed on the Ride with GPS Club account benefit page here. But in short, the club account will benefit you if you currently have a free account with Ride with GPS, as the club account will give you a a few key features you would otherwise have to upgrade to get. For example, for those of you downloading route files to your GPS for navigation, as a club account member, you will have the ability to set advance notice parameters prior to turns in navigation mode, which I'll show you shortly. Also, if you are using a Ride with GPS mobile app, you can download offline maps and navigation should you anticipate having no cell phone coverage at times during your route. And the navigation will continue to work normally through the GPS function on your smartphone. You will also be able to get turn-by-turn voice instructions, which is kind of cool. These features and others are locked out for the free accounts, but let me clarify. These advanced features will only be available for routes in the club account library, in which there are now around 400. They will not be available to the routes in your personal account or any other public route on Ride with GPS. For that, you will need one of the paid tiers. Okay, all our library routes are now loaded into the Ride with GPS Club account. And shortly, to conclude, I'll show you a new and terrific way to explore the library's regions and routes, and it's pretty cool. So hang on until then. Before that, let me show you how to load a route from the club account library onto your GPS. For this demonstration, I will be using Windows 10 and my Garmin 830 hardwired to the laptop. For those of you with devices other than a Garmin or Windows format, I'll show you shortly where you can find info to export using your configuration. So let's randomly select a route here from the club, and I'm going to have to bring this down because I can't see the view. Okay. Sterling, Forest Loop, Ringwood to Ramsey via Skylands, Warm Puppy, Lichtenstein Rock. I'm sorry if I butchered that last name. Okay. Notice here on the left, there's export fit file. The fit file is best for all new model Garmins. However, your GPS may require one of the other file formats for navigation. So let's look at those options by clicking these three dots here, and then scroll down to more export options. And then just scroll down, you'll see fit first, and you'll see the usual suspects, TCX, GPX, and just choose which format is best for your device. Also, you may want to send whatever file format you choose to a different kind of device, such as an iPhone or an Android. To do that, click on the three dots again and select Send to a Different Device. And you will have four options already programmed in here. Just select one of them, or if you have a different device or want to send it to a different device, just click Other Device and follow the prompts. And now let's get back to exporting the fit file. So I'll now select Export Fit File, and notice this Notify Before Turn box. If it's not checked, make sure you check it. And then you can set the parameters, the distance before the turn you want to be notified. So, and you have the option between 5 meters and 100 meters before the turn. And let's just randomly select 50 meters for purposes of this demonstration. Then click Download a Fit File, and then go to the folder in which you downloaded the file, which happens to be my downloads folder. Then open your Garmin folder. So on your hard drive, this is what it will look like. Open it up and you're going to see a bunch of files here. You'll notice the courses file. This is not where you're going to download the new folder, the new file. This is where your existing downloaded courses are going to be kept. Go down instead to New Files folder and open it, and then just click and drag the new route into the New Files folder, and that is it. Close everything up, and the route is loaded into your Garmin Edge. The next time you turn on your Garmin, the route will be ready to use with turn-by-turn directions and with the advanced notification before all turns using the parameters you programmed in. For this presentation, I won't get into describing the RideWithGPS mobile app, which you can use as a substitute for or in addition to a dedicated cycling GPS unit. But should you want to learn more, all of the instructions are on the help section of the RideWithGPS website. Finally, as to how we've organized our, let me go back to our club account page. Finally, as to how we've organized our route library and the RideWithGPS account. I'm happy to introduce, and this is the cool new search feature, I'm happy to introduce to you a new feature RideWithGPS has recently introduced called Collections, and which as librarians we've now developed so it includes all of our library rides organized by regions and with a terrific interactive map for each region. As the feature is new for now, RideWithGPS has not included the Collections tab on our club account page. It would normally be seen along this line of tabs here. We have been in touch with the RideWithGPS team and are hopeful they will add this tab in the near future. So for now, we have to navigate to the Collections page by way of a privacy-coded link. To get the link, go back to the NYCC Club benefit page that I showed you earlier, then go down to this paragraph where it says important and where we describe that the Collections link or tab is not currently on the page, but if you click this link here, it will take you to the Collections page. And here is the big reveal. Here it is. And as you can see, I'm just going to scroll down and show you. We've attached pictures to each of the regions you're familiar with, the Gunks, New York City, Catskills, Long Island, the Berkshires, towpaths, climbing. Richard Rosenthal is going to love this category, Westchester County, and I'll just move down. Historical, it's a neat category, and Orange County. And now let me show you how the interactive map works. And for purposes of the demonstration, let's say we're interested in an urban adventure. So let's click on the urban adventure category and notice that we have over here 32 collection items, or 32 routes loaded into this collection, and all of the routes are color coded by lines here. So you can get a macro view of where the routes are by color, and you can zoom in and take a closer look. Oh, this looks cool. And again, for purposes of this description, let's say we're interested in going to Staten Island, and we look at Staten Island and say, I see that there appears to be a route that circumnavigates the entire island. Now, you can do this for any of these color-coded routes, but let's say we're interested in this route. Just hover your cursor over the purple line and click it, and up comes a box that's, in this case, says Staten Island counterclockwise plus ... We now know it's 45.7 miles, and this is the vert. If you're interested, great. If you're not, close and continue exploring. But let's say we are interested. So we'll click it, and up comes the route, Staten Island counterclockwise and historic Charleston. And we can zoom in. I'm sorry, the pictures are keeping me from doing. We can zoom in and study it as closely as we want. We can download the export fit file or any of the other file formats, and away we go. So that is our new collections library. And I'll end my presentation here, but have fun exploring our collections page. And we welcome all of you who haven't yet to join our Ride with GPS Club account. Thank you very much. And back to you, Alan.
I have to come off mute there. Thank you all very much. This is excellent. Clearly a very valuable asset that the club is sharing with members, old and new. I want to put you on the spot. I'm leaving you on the spotlight, Bob, because there's a question. We have several questions that came in, and I want to go through them in a certain order. The last one was if you could go back to where that important link was. It was, I believe, on the Ride with GPS page. Is that
this is the link to get into is this the link to get into the collections page?
Yes, I think Jim Finder, he said, what app was that important link in? So it was on our website, right, on nycc.org. So it's not in an app per se. It's on the website. You go to this, right? So
Jim, let me start at the beginning, Jim. So here we are at the home page. Go to Ride Library, Jim, and then from here, hover your mouse over Rides, click down to Club Ride with GPS account, and then you'll be taken here. And as I mentioned, you can only see this column if you're signed in and a member. And then, Jim, scroll down, and you're going to see this important thing here. Currently, the collections page cannot be accessed, blah, blah, blah. And so for now, the collections page can be accessed with this link. And this is a privacy-coded link that only we can use. So click this link here, and then you're taken to our collections page.
Okay, so that answers Jim's question. And I'm going to take the spotlight and the pressure off of you. You did such a great job.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask two questions that are up for grabs. So we'll see who, the first one is, if we currently have a basic Ride with GPS account, can we just cancel it, then join the NYCC account? And I know the answer to this one, but do you want to, somebody want to address how that?
Yeah, yes, you have to have a free personal account is fine, but either that or one of the two tiers. You have to have a free personal account to join our Club Ride with GPS account. So yes.
Do not cancel your personal account.
Yes, do not cancel it. Yes.
It gives you certain upgraded capabilities that come from the fact that you're a member of a bike club. So they have a program that allows bike clubs to share their rides with people who have basic level accounts. Okay, and then the last question, and I do want to remind everybody, there's a Q&A button. If you have a question, pop it in. It's, can you share the program that's used to generate the NYCC Q sheet? So that's RoboVivo. I don't know if it's too much to ask one of you to actually walk through how easy it is to find and use, or is
Well,
that?
Carol, do you want to, I mean, I'd be pleased to, or do you want to do it, Carol? Yeah, you do it. Carol, do it.
I'm not sure that I have the most up-to-date link. I may have an old link, so you may have a more current link. I don't know. Or did you get your link from me?
Well, I can show how you get to the link if that's.
I can show it.
Okay.
You want to put me on there,
You can share this.
Alan? Okay, I can
I'll
share my screen. Let me go. Hang on. Okay. This is what the link looks like. And so this is the URL, snuggl.es/RoboViva. And what you do is you click in this box here, then you will have to, oh dear.
Well, where you were was fine. Can I,
Yeah, I just want to bring up, I just want to show you, take a route number. This here, when you're in Ride with GPS, you'll see this, it'll be anywhere from 6 to 8 digits. This one is 330-75741. And enter that number in this box here, 330, of course I'm not going to remember it, 330-75741, 75741, and hit enter or click Viva. And voila, up comes, of course I picked one that has, never mind, that has not been corrected. Anyway, that's how you do it. Of course, I picked the wrong one. But anyway, you can go back to somebody else.
no problem. So I think you all see how relatively easy these things are. They all have numbers. You find the link, away you go. If any other questions, I'm not seeing any at the moment. So I have one for Hank. Hank, how did you find out about the New York Cycle Club?
Strange that you may ask that. You know, I went to high school. Interestingly enough, when we do the Berkshire Weekend Ride, sometimes we meet at Mount Everett Regional High School. I graduated from there. My parents lived in Sheffield. So this was so long ago, Abraham Lincoln was not quite in the White House. But I was on Metro North going to the farthest stop then was Dover Plains. And there was somebody else I had my bike and I had no idea. I figured I could do this. And there's another fellow, his name was Richard Kaufman. I haven't seen him since then. And he said, you got to join New York Cycle Club because they know the routes. So I thought about that. And then I was going to a bike shop. I think it was Bicycle Habitat. And then there was the ENY display. And I picked up the brochure and it said, if you do this ride, we're going to give you how many, like 3 or 6 extra months of membership in the New York Cycle Club if you do register for ENY. Would you believe? And first of all, I found out what the routes are. Here I am, a ride librarian. And it was through Escape New York that I entered the New York Cycle Club.
It's my straight man. Thank you very much. With that, okay, we do have a last question. I just pinged everyone to remind you that we have Peter standing by and we'll be taking questions, general questions about the club, and ask Peter for a brief update. But this comes from an anonymous Neanderthal. Any suggestions about how to use a Garmin 1000? I got it before Corona and found it to be a bit confusing. Is there a Garmin for Dummies source? I will say one thing before you answer that, which is I use the app, the Ride with GPS app, and they've just recently added route planning and more capabilities to it. I don't know if that's in the basic. I happen to have purchased the license for that one, and I find it pretty useful, but it does take some learning curve. So what about the Garmin, how to get more proficient in Garmin? Does anyone want to
I basically went to the Garmin website and looked at the manual, the online manual for the 1000. And then I took it outdoors and started using it and just started, it's somewhat self-explanatory. Once you kind of get the feel for it, you can figure out how to use it.
Anyone else want to chime in, or that nails it? I will say also, I've discovered something called the University of Google. That you can literally go to Google and say things like, how do I invite panelists to a Zoom webinar? And it points you into the Zoom database. So these things can be overwhelming. Ride with GPS happens to also have an amazing help system. But you have to have the patience to kind of delve in and spend some time with it. But if not, and you're in a pinch, you can go to their search engine or even just the general Google search engine. People will write articles about these things. So I'd recommend doing that as well to find out how to use a particular device. And you probably picked it up at a bike shop. If you bought it online, it's also a good opportunity to go into a bike shop, have something mechanical done to support the shop. And then there are usually people around there who can help you as well.
May I add one other thing is YouTube is an amazing resource. You go to YouTube and ask it, look at reviews of that Garmin. And there are people, there's not one, there's like 5 different people reviewing the product. And if you just keep going over it, and if you're not getting it, rewind and look at it again.
And also, we have a Facebook page called the New York Cycle Club Members Only Community. And in there, you could also post and probably find someone in the club who's a little bit further ahead of you on the curve or seasoned and willing to share their insights. So,
and Ellen, I would just add, because I've been helping a friend who just bought an 830. Taking baby steps with the Garmin's great. Get the basic windows down you want to use with the various metrics you want, speed, mileage, etc. Then figure out how to load a route, figure out navigation, and then go from there. But with the 1000 and the 830, you can get really, really detailed. They're amazing features, but they're pretty advanced and you may not use a lot of them, but it's really, really useful if you can just get the basic things down. And ask for those on YouTube. Just say, how do I set my pages? How do I do navigation? If you ask a specific question on YouTube, you'll usually get a pretty good video explaining how to do it.
I think that's it in terms of Q&A. So it's up to you three. If you'd like to stick around for the next portion, you're welcome.
I'm going to have to leave, so thank you all very much. It was a pleasure to describe our Ride Library, and I hope you start to use it and to join our club account.
Thank you all for the work you do. We really appreciate it, and we're benefiting from it, so thank you. And for taking part tonight.
Okay, bye.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye, Carol.
Bye-bye.
So Peter, it's you and me, kid.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Sometime around St. Patrick's Day, as most of you know, we canceled everything for 8 weeks. And then we stretched it. And now we are coming back. On June 8th, we announced that rides would begin. And subject to certain special strictures, which I can go over or take questions about, but we are riding, and that is wonderful news. Now, some of you are not comfortable riding in groups yet. You want to take a little more time, and that is absolutely fine. The most important thing is for people to be comfortable and to ride safely and in a manner that they think is safe. So however you react to our reopening, you're part of the club. Welcome back. Now, Alan, do we have any questions?
Well, one comment I want to make sure I read out into the reading is by far the most useful and interesting Zoom meeting I've attended in months. Thank you so very much for all the hard work it took to make this all happen. Can't wait to use it. Renewing my membership tonight and spreading the word. So that's good. Any questions for Peter while we're here? I guess one question I have is, you know, the guidelines, do you see them as long-term or a first step? How should people be you know, experiencing the fact that we're starting with smaller groups, and it can be frustrating when you're used to riding with double the size and so on.
Mhm. They are emphatically a first step. They reflect the fact that when they came out, we were entering what Governor Cuomo calls phase one. We were not sure how the public would react to large numbers of riders riding in formation all of a sudden after disappearing for so long. So we started with small groups of 6, 2 leaders, 4 riders, and that's going to grow. Probably in the next couple of weeks, we'll take it to a larger number. I'm thinking 10, but don't hold me to that. And we expect to sort of creep back to normalcy if the COVID picture allows us to do that.
Great. I mean, you know, we've been, in the time you described, we've had this process of deciding what to do with Escape New York, which I've been blessed with the opportunity to lead this year in this challenging year. And we're kind of looking at the process the club went through to get to the point we're at and hopefully go further. It all kind of depends on how this pandemic evolves. We're really hoping that New York, with the hard work that we've done and the positioning that we're going to show the rest of the country how to kind of live and ride through this thing. So we're watching closely and we're working closely with the organization as we gain experience. So for my mind, we're going to have the month of June at the 2-4, right? 2 leaders with 4 people. And then all that experience, the board has all the different SIG leaders on it, all the different members who are experienced in the club, struggling with the questions of when to go to that next level. So I'm comfortable that by the time we hit September, we'll know how to run a ride that's made out of essentially what the club will have been doing for 2 or 3 months and gaining that experience.
That is absolutely the idea.
There we go. Any other questions? We still have 23 people attending, so please, by all means, you can either put a question in the chat or in the Q&A.
And you don't have to ask questions about COVID. If you have any questions about the club, fire away.
Yep. I didn't think.
How could I have explained everything so well?
It's one of the great explanations I've ever heard. That no questions.
Has anyone found a good mask that is more breathable to ride in? Well, now that's interesting. I don't have it handy, but first of all, if you go on to, and you won't be able to get this right away. First of all, there's a series of masks that have these little filters on them that you can buy. They're typically taking about a month to be delivered. But I hear from people those are good. I haven't used one. For efficacy, thickness is better. So having something that can pull up and down will help you, because when you're riding, as long as you're not in a big crowd, you can pull it down. It's when you're getting close to people you want to put it up. We have something in our new shop that we've launched. If you go to enynycc.org/shop, our partner Ostroy has developed a neck warmer that you can wear around your neck, pull up and pull down. So that's something. Oh, you can't see my face because I've made Peter. This is Alan speaking. I'm going to just take off the. Oops.
Take the spotlight.
I'll just take the spotlight off and we'll all be there. So now if you go to gallery view, you'll be able to see us all. So it's a bit trial and error because we're getting into the hot period of the summer. So certainly the masks that are really well designed for when it's cool are going to be a bit much to wear. I find I treat it as, believe it or not, a lung expansion exercise. So I get into the breathing through and it does work. It's just harder work, a bit of a workout. And there are other things out there. People are using bandanas that you can wrap around your face. I think it's really important to be seen to be making the effort in this day and age, because it's about caring for the people. Even if you know you're healthy, it's sending that right message, and you want them to do the same, especially if they're not well. So I don't have a specific answer. Does anyone else have a comment about that?
Alan, I do. I actually got one of the cycling 2 valved things that arrived yesterday. And I'm interested in having it because I may be going overseas. And it's actually, the filters are, I can't remember, there's a technical name for them. The filters are actually N99 filters. So an N95 blocks out 95% of bad stuff. This blocks out over 99%. So that part is great. The seal is great. And there's an adjustable nose thing, and you can breathe through the valve, so you're not fogging your glasses up. I'm not hugely enthusiastic about how well they breathe. It's certainly not like hacking it off, but it works. It's not bad. And then I agree about the neck warmer. I use my GFNY thing, and if I come across people, I just simply pull it up, push it back down again once I've passed. So it's really easy to use.
If you use a bandana like a desperado from a cowboy movie, with the point aimed down at your chest, it's great because you can get the Camelback hose underneath it and you don't have to fuss with the mask to drink.
Yeah, great.
And I would say, keep an eye out because there's who would have thought that Vistaprint was working on that? We are looking at a supplier that potentially, as a fundraiser, if you donate a certain amount to our charities through our Eventbrite, as we activate it in the next week or two, this feature that I'm talking about, you'll potentially get a mask. So we're looking at them as well, and we'll let you know through the website when we have something for you. Any other questions about any topic at all?
Nothing. Our transparency initiative has been so successful. Wonderful.
Well, if we're nearing the end, may I just take this opportunity to thank you, Alan, for setting this up, and
Totally.
And behind the scenes, gang, we've been doing some rehearsals that Alan's been instrumental in pulling off. So thank you, Alan.
It's a pleasure, and it's actually easy when I have such great talent. Last week we had Jim Zisfine, and it's going up on YouTube. This will be put up onto YouTube as well, so people who couldn't make it live will be able to follow. We do have another question about, has membership held steady, Peter? How's the membership?
That is a very interesting question, because in terms of the number of members that have rolled off without renewing, we have been very steady, or we've been very comparable to previous years. In terms of revenues, we're down somewhat, and I'm not quite sure why the disparity between the revenues and the membership numbers. But if you think we have had a major drop-off, fall off a cliff, no one's renewed, collapse in membership, no, we absolutely have not.
Can you talk about?
We may have dipped a little.
How about some news? I think we have some news from the IRS to share. Any implications for the membership from that?
Oh, yes. For those of you who haven't heard, we are now a 501c3 corporation. And that means that if you want to change your estate planning to leave everything to the New York Cycle Club, it is a charitable contribution. And likewise, a member has volunteered to donate a bicycle box to the club, and that is a charitable donation. So we're very thrilled about this. We think it's going to get us a sales tax exemption in New York State, which will preserve about 9% of our revenues. And we view this as a real onward and upward step.
And
thanks to Jerry Ross in particular for bringing it off.
For sure. And in launching Escape New York, as we reach out to sponsors again this year, they have the benefit that their sponsorship, whether it's in kind or in cash, are tax deductible as well. So hopefully there's more
absolutely
to be able to do over time as our accountant advises us what the implications are for us. Any other topic, Peter, that you think? Any other questions? No. Well, I will say that our intention is for the ride to really showcase the benefits of the ride being housed in the NYCC as a club. So one of the things we have to look at is typically we've made a very big investment in marshals on the routes. This time around, we're actually going to use a popular feature that we've added in the last few years called leader-led rides. So we're looking for a lot of volunteers from within the club to step up and offer to work with Mike Birdstein on the team, who took over the leader-led rides from Julie, who's our volunteer coordinator. If there's anything you want to do to help in Escape New York, it's always welcome. Talk to Julie if you have a general area that you'd like to help us with. And specifically, if you'd like to lead some of our 25, 50, 7,500 or dirt rides, work with Mike Bernstein as well and sign up. We may have to cap the ride just based on where the numbers are in New York at the time. So, you know, leaders who want to lead, we're probably going to need anywhere between 40 and 80.
Alan, is it fair to say that if you are a leader on a leader-led ride, if I've got that right, you get to ride the whole ride as opposed to standing in an intersection with a sign and pointing left or right?
Right, and we're going to have a session like this within the month before the event for leaders to kind of train them on how to communicate with each other to maintain pace, but at the same time distance, right? Because that's going to be the key ingredient, and it's going to depend on where the club gets to at that time. So it's really important for those. Look, we respect if you're not ready to ride, don't ride. But for those of you who are, you're playing a vital function in being able to bring Escape New York off. So we are going to, in the same way, because we're going to have leader-led, we don't have to put the arrows down on the road and we'll save something there. Same thing with going to a full leader-led. It's a richer than just a marshal kind of model, and it does mitigate some of those issues. Although there have been some really good bump and move techniques that I've heard about over the years, this is the ultimate, which is to really have people who've done these routes before leading you and pacing you. Okay, no more questions, and I appreciate the attendance. You've stayed, almost half of you have stayed all the way through, so thank you. And
no, it's gratifying to see so many. Thank you.
I will remind you that next week, we're going to have the third in our June series, which will be on virtual riding. So what we're doing is, the beauty of this for future years is that by having a virtual component, we're going to have challenges all summer long, ability to win raffles, tickets from participating in the challenges. We're going to ride rain or shine. If it's rain, you have your choice. You can go out in the rain, probably be a smaller ride, but you can also do it virtual. And virtual allows, the challenges we're going to have is going to let you take all the riding you do this summer and get some credit for it towards winning some prizes from Escape New York. With that said, I'm going to end the meeting unless there's a last question that pops up. And I want to thank again, Hank, Robert, and you'll pass it along to Carol for your participation. And Peter, I guess the one other thing I do want to remind everyone is this is a completely volunteer run operation. And if you get frustrated anywhere, by all means, there's usually an email somewhere on the website that relates to the area. So there's one for the librarians if you're struggling with it, and there's one for just general information. So with that, we're getting some thank yous, folks. I want to pass that along. Thank you, Nelson. You answered his question, and he's very pleased. And Janice Joplin was with us tonight. She came back, crossed over. People get to name themselves here. So with that.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, I will say very helpful presentation. So we'll end it for tonight, and we'll see everyone hopefully next week. Thank you all.
Thank you, Alan.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night, Hank. Good night, Peter.
Good night, John Boy.
Good night.